As a tutor in my late 20s, I walked into the room one day and I saw my student lying on the ground, completely flat. They weren't dead, luckily. They were just done for the day, both metaphorically and literally. This was the start of our 2-hour session working together. And I thought, oh, mother, what do I do with this? I wanted to pull my hair out. I wanted to spit directions. What are you doing? Get up to the table. Get back to work. This is a waste of time. But I took a breath and I stopped. I decided to try something different. I just sat down next to them and I began talking to them with some curiosity. A few questions later, we began to return to the day's discussion materials. At the end of that session, the student told me something I never had expected. They were fighting a condition called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, a genetic condition which means constant joint pain every single day. And what looked like very strange and defiant behavior when I walked into that room was a life of struggle that I didn't understand and couldn't see. So my question for you as a manager, as a team leader, maybe if you run an organization, when you're working with difficult team members, is there a possibility there's a story behind it all that you just don't know about? So I was delivering a workshop recently, and this 44-year-old CEO of some hot rising tech startup asked me a question. He said, how do you manage Gen Z? Honestly, I was surprised. I was really not ready for the question, and I completely fumbled my answer. See, I've spent years working with Gen Z, tutoring, coaching, as well as in the military, and I've never found them to be impossible to lead. Different, yes, challenging, sometimes. Impossible, no. But the CEO's question revealed something to me that I wasn't realizing myself, I wasn't aware of. Gen Z represent a new challenge for many managers. And here's what I think is changing. Gen Z has raised the bar on leadership. Many of the old approaches, such as command and control, don't clear it anymore. So let's dive into that a little bit more. Why is Gen Z different? Well, this generation grew up with unlimited access to information, watching CEOs on TikTok every day. They've seen authority figures fall in public. They've watched institutions contradict themselves year in, year out, over and over. One example in recent memory for many of us is going to be Andy Byron, the CEO of Astronomer. You might not know his name or the organization, but you'll know there was some CEO who was at a Coldplay concert and he was caught on the Jumbotron in July 2025, looking a little bit too comfortable with a work colleague. Gen Z have seen behind the curtain of professionalism, and they don't automatically respect titles. They don't care about authority for authority's sake. They want your transparency, honesty, and meaning. Here's another thing, though. As they were coming of age, a crucial time for so many of us, COVID hit. Right at the moment when most of us have had the most freedom ever in our lives to date. When they gained independence and were about to sort of embark on their lives with confidence, the world shut down. Freedom disappeared, connection disappeared, and certainty disappeared. And what's the psychological impact of that? I mean, I have no idea. I can't tell you. But it's big for sure. You see, young people entering the workforce often get labeled as um, sort of useless, asking questions about things which are one Google search away. But they need more support, more reassurance, more direction. Many managers find that exhausting. It's like parenting, some call it. I agree, it is, although I don't know what parenting's like. But here's a different way to see it all. This isn't just a Gen Z problem. This is a human problem. So in recent years, I've worked with mid-career managers at different stages who were overwhelmed, burnt out, struggling with family, their personal life falling apart. And what did they want? Empathy, honesty, support, meaning, the exact same things that Gen Z wants. You see, younger workers are just refusing to emotionally disconnect from work just to survive it. They won't pretend they love corporate the way the rest of us have done. And they won't perform contentment if they don't really feel it. So I'm going to invite you to think about how can your leadership evolve, not away from accountability and standards, but perhaps away from command and control towards some coaching, a bit more trust, and a bit more real people development. There are two types of leaders. You've got multipliers who grow and raise the impact of their people. And you have diminishers who see people as the problem and end up shutting others down around them. As a manager, or as managers, we have that kind of choice every single day. What kind of leader, what kind of manager do I want to try and become? And if we've been one for a while, we can decide at any moment to do the other. So for the two people here in this audience who said, or who didn't just say, no, thanks, this is definitely a them problem, I think the future belongs to leaders who create psychological ownership, not just expecting and demanding compliance. So practically, what does this mean? This means starting with something simple, like just asking some more questions rather than just issuing more directives. Questions like, what's the biggest challenge you're facing right now? What support would help you to succeed? And what do you think would work best here? Those are the kind of questions which will get your team thinking, which will help them to develop. When they feel understood and appreciated, they will show up differently. They will begin to take ownership. They can innovate and they will care. Toastmasters, the choice is yours. I invite you to think about what kind of leader do you want to be going forwards, and look at this not as a challenge, but as an opportunity. Thank you.